Saran.
Good evening again. It's been once more to let Christy film me while I cook. Apparently, that's something you guys enjoy watching, which I'm really happy you do. But so here we are again. Now, normally I wouldn't make this recipe for you without making my recipe for pulled pork as well, and I don't have half of the stuff I need to make proper meal. But I really wanted to try out something new. I got something in my birthday on my birthday, which is a real old-fashioned cast iron tortilla press. So, of course, since that's been bought, we need tortillas, and the recipe for that is relatively simple.
Flour.
Yeah, we have
Flour.
About 1.4 liters of flour, not kilos, but liters of flour in here. Already measured that out. I have salt and I have baking powder, which I'm going to put in. You need to put about 1 tablespoon of salt and 1 tablespoon of baking powder into the mixture, and then give that a little bit of a stir, just really quickly mix those ingredients together, the dry ingredients. Once you've incorporated that a little bit, so you have a nice little layer of them. Normally I would do this with my hands, but last time I tried this dough got really sticky and really wet, and I'd rather do it with a spoon. You cut up, you take 50 grams of butter, which I've already measured out. And again, I use grams, I don't use cups or ounces.
The low pack?
This is low pack, yeah. The reason I chose that was because it was easy to cut out and get out rather than the Kergården that I normally use. So we take this and we drop these little knobs of butter in. If you're Mexican, please, and you're watching, please don't kill me for making tortillas wrong. I don't know. This is the only recipe I have. Please leave us a suggestion in the comments
below.
Yeah, comments below that so I can learn more, because I really do like Tex-Mex and I do like making tortillas, and it's one of the reasons I actually wanted a tortilla maker, because last time rolling them out on my with a rolling pin was horrible for me. So that's why I wanted a tortilla maker, because I wanted to make more. So here we go. Now the butter's in.
Then you can ask Brian to come here.
And then we simply incorporate that a little bit, real quick. Nothing much, just make sure it's all covered in flour. And now is when we take
put
this,
the water,
which is 600 milliliters of water. And it's tepid water. It's not hot water. It's not cold water. It's tepid, just like you would do with a baby. Like if you have a baby and you put your elbow in it, that's pretty much the temperature you want this in. So you put a little bit of that into it, not a lot, and then you stir to incorporate. And you keep trying not to spill flour all over the place like I just did. Again, I'm used to doing this by hand, but when I bake, and I'm not really a great baker, so you can see it's starting to form little wet lumps. Those are the ones we want. A little more water. Incorporate that with the flour again. Now, one of the things I noticed about tortilla recipe is actually it's very similar to my pasta recipe, except for the fact that it uses baking powder instead of an egg. But other than that, it's not far off.
Oh well. Then next.
So now I've incorporated the dough into a sticky mass, and I've used my hands for a little bit now because I got bored of the spoon. So out on the table, now that it's stuck together, and we start kneading it together. Now you see my hands filled with dough. Easy way to get rid of it: sprinkle a little bit of flour on your hands and then just simply rub them together and drag along. And if you run out of flour, you simply just take a little bit more, add it to the side of your hands, and just rub away to get the remaining dough off your hands. Not a complete clean, but it does help. So now my hands, which were covered in dough moments before, are now clean. And then we start incorporating. So the moment all that we just got off into the middle of the dough, fold that dough together and start folding correctly. Bring it back, do the same, pick up those little pieces, press down, roll it over and keep pressing. And as we do, it absorbs a lot of the flour, so keep spreading it out again. And we want to take some of that stickiness out of it without completely removing the full stickiness of the dough. We want it slightly sticky, it just clings to our hands, but not so sticky that it clings to the table. As you can see, we're just about the right size. If I take it on, look, okay, it's like it's letting slightly go of my hands. So we're working that gluten, gathering up the remaining flour. Don't need to do it all, but might as well. Get a little bit cleaner table. My wife will love that.
You clean the table.
That's the sound you want to hear. Now we fold it, push it down, fold it together, and add it back in our saucer for a little bit. Cover that with a tea towel and leave that to rest somewhere hot for 20 minutes. Now, we didn't use yeast in this, so it won't rise much. We'll just give it time to absorb some air and make it easier to actually roll out later. So we're putting this away for 20 minutes. Right, so next part we're going to do the filling whilst the dough raises a little bit. We got 4 boneless chicken breasts, we got 4 or 3 pieces of chicken breast. Large one. We got one large sized onion. I would do 2, but Christy isn't really a fan of onion unless they are caramelized. And I got 2 snack peppers. I prefer bell peppers normally, but since I don't have a lot of the extra stuff that's in these now, there's a nice sweet flavor. I have my 2 knives. I have my my chopping knife, and I have my chef's knife. Just a quick once over. By the way, doing this every time to your knife just before you use them, great idea. Keeps them relatively sharp. Now, because my friend Brian still watches these videos, I think his wife forces him to, because he doesn't know how to cook that well. Brian, we're going to repeat the process here, because you're going to learn how to chop an onion again. You notice I have 2 containers next to me. One of them is for debris. Everything I remove that I don't use, I put into this before throwing out. Just makes my workspace easier. And this is for storing extra stuff. That's pretty much what it is. So, Brian, pay attention, because this is going to go quick. You see the bottom here, the root, that's what we want to keep. We just tear out the roots a little bit to clean up our work surface, and then we cut. We simply cut down the center of our onion, and we get this nice little clean cut onion. Then we remove the outer layers of our onion. Tear a little bit. See, again, I remove here because I don't really like the first inner layer. They don't caramelize all that well, don't look all that well. Throw that away. And Brian, look here, we also cut the top off. Just you can start with doing that if you want. I was just lazy and wanted to remind you, and to cut the top off again. Makes it a little bit easier to peel the layers off. Peel them off. And add them to your debris container. Now, here's the important part, Brian. And with your knife, you score it along the length of it. And you use your tip. The tip is there for a reason, people. I see so many people not using the tip. The tip is there for a reason. In and down. And try and keep your knife straight. Don't do it like this, don't do it like that. Just straight. Now, I like them a little bit chunky for this. And normally I wouldn't chop the onions, I would have them in elongated. But for your sake, Brian, we are showing you how to chop them again. Then down the middle, a few steps, and then you tilt the knife ever so slightly and cut downward. Do the same up here, inward and then slightly downward. This I could do really quickly, but I am showing it to exemplify it. And then on the edge, notice how the blade curves. It's because we want to do that motion. So down, and we cut it pretty much like a little ball we want to chop up. And then down, and then the back end of it we just take off, and we just quickly shut that up. Doesn't need to be pretty, it's for tortillas, it's not for showing. Same with the last one, down the side. I like them chunky, so as you can see I leave a lot of space. Normally I would do them really fine if I needed them for like a bolognese or something, but I don't. Down the center, cut downward, down the center, cut downward. So we follow the lines of the onions, and again a rough chop. I want a little more meat on my onions this time than I normally do. See, this is still firm, still really firm. I haven't cut into it. So do the same again, downward cut, and a little bit of a downward cut, and then we clean that up. There you go, chopped onions. Your debris stored here. Peppers, and I just realised that my wife turned off the camera while I was talking in the other video, and I've been talking to myself for a while. So bad question. Take your snack pepper and you chop off the top. Absolutely, we don't want that. Into the debris. Chop off the bottom because we really don't want that either. And then just a single line using the tip of your blade all the way down. And again, flip it and do the same on the other side. Make sure your fingers stay well clear of the blade, and then you just pull. See in here? I'll pull all those veins out. Get rid of all the seeds and veins. I'm going to demonstrate on one and then do it on the other one while Christy's not filming, because otherwise she's going to turn the camera off on me again. So cut it in half. Actually, we can do it a little more. Since we've chopped the other ones, we'll chop these ones too, but not as finely. So we do it like this. Then down the side. If we really want, we could chop them up again, but yeah, we might as well ruin it completely. So just like that. Pull them apart, and once down the middle. Now, don't kill me for chopping my vegetables here. Don't kill me for it. I know it's wrong, and I would never do this unless I was making food for my wife, because she doesn't like the onions as much. I want to keep them long, and I want to keep them stringy normally, but not today.
And it doesn't matter how you cut. Is it? Huh?
Doesn't matter at all how much you cut it, or how much. It depends on what texture you want, how crunchy you want it to be, how long you want your peppers to be.
Are you going to cook this one for same with the onion caramelized?
Once the onions are caramelized, I'm going to add this in, because I don't want this to. This is the last thing I add. First it's onions to caramelize them, then the chicken. Actually, let's do the chicken first this time around. Chicken first to brown it, because it's still a little bit frozen, so we need to get the water out. Then add that. Then once that's done, caramelize the onions, and then we add the peppers in last, because I want the peppers to still have a little bit of that crunch they normally have. I don't want them to be my own. 1.5 tablespoons of salt. Normally I just do 2 teaspoons of salt. Add that with a little bit of garlic, another teaspoon of garlic powder, 1.5 teaspoon of paprika, depending on what you make. I just like to make this and then store it. Since I don't have any chili, I'm just going to put about half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper in there. A little bit more.
It's not spicy.
A little bit strong. So there we go, just about a teaspoon of that. Then important part is coriander. Teaspoon of coriander, just about. Half a teaspoon of I don't know what that is called. It comes spidskum in Denmark.
Cardamom.
No, not cardamom.
No.
Not at all cardamom. Nowhere near cardamom.
This
This coming.
is
And then, of course, a little bit of
common.
oregano to give flavor.
What is this putting this on? I forgot.
And then a little bit of normal pepper in there. Just to taste. You can stir or you can flip it around. I prefer to stir, so you get a better little mixture of it. And there you go. Freshly made fajita mix. My homemade fajita mix. You don't have to like it, don't have to use it.
So guys, I end up with chicken. Chicken.
Yeah.
Is that all?
Nah, that's about a third, but you see all that water inside? That's what we want to get out. Since it's half frozen, all that water is going to get released and it's going to end up boiling. So we're only going to do a third at a time to get that water out without risking the heat not being able to handle it.
Okay.
But the heat right now is relatively high, so
Yeah.
but it's still only just managing to boil it.
Did you already put the onion?
Yeah, I just put the onion in to absorb some of the moisture.
Yummy, yummy, yummy. Ayan na po siya. Minimix niya.
Now we have our dough. It's raised for about 20 minutes, half an hour. Picked up my cutter and I've just sprinkled or rubbed flour in my hands. I've floured up the table surface. Now we're simply going to pull this dough out of its container. Don't need to be gentle. It's a little bit heavy, a little bit sticky. Out on it, and then we roll it out so we get about a nice even shape. Then I fold it back in just for fun, and I roll it back in again just to incorporate it a little bit. That's the last time I do that. And there we go. Nice dough that we can use. Now, normally what you would do is you would roll it out and then you would start cutting with your tool or with a knife or whatever you have available. You will start cutting the dough out. I'm not going to do that because it's going to take a little bit. This is the first time trying it, so roll it up into a little ball. Drop it down on the center of my tortilla press. It's about the right size, I'd say. Let's add that in, roll it up. Flour on the surface. This is meant from rice tortillas, so I'll be surprised if it doesn't work with wheat. Push. Well, that certainly improved that side, and it certainly did on the other side as well. So a little less. I think this is about right. And we'll sprinkle that on. Little knob. A little bit of flour on there. Close it. Yes. And peel. Yeah. Looks fine. Not as good as I wanted it to do, but yeah, we'll make tacos instead. That's pretty much all you do. Just continue doing that for the rest of the time. And then you have tortillas.
Ta-da! Tortillas. Yummy.
Hi.